Morning Constitution. I'm your host, Joel Hoxley, and uh, this is a Jay Washington production. I'm excited to be here today, and thank you, John, for all your work directing this thing. Keep this show on the road. So, you all know that David and I do a show called You Can't Make This Shit Up. So, David loves to keep his clients very informed. So, he's sending out some information, and I noticed it's a Salon article, and I'm like, well, Salon leans to the left, and no, it's no problem. Let me take a look at this, and it's a commentary. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a look at this. Well, the title was "Gun Owners: It's Time for Us to Stand Up Against the Second Amendment Death Culture." Like, okay, that's powerful. I'm going to go there. So it's written by a guy named Rich Logus, and I know very little about him because what it says is he is a Republican. He was former Trump, uh, voted for Trump twice, and if you have to hype it that much, how much you are a Republican, you're probably not a Republican. You probably didn't do that, or you were a Democrat that followed Trump over to the party. Those are my first instincts. So my conspiracy theories always go a little differently. So he goes, as a resident of Florida, I have carried a concealed firearm almost everywhere for years, everywhere except where it's specifically prohibited by law or by policies of specific business. Okay. He says, hanging in my office is a 100% American made Gadsden flag. Well, Gadsden flag, if you don't know what that is, it's the yellow flag with the rattlesnake, don't tread on me. Okay. So he's really trying to get this Republican establishment. He goes, I voted exclusively for Republicans, including twice for former Donald Trump and once for Ron DeSantis in 2018. I was formerly a lifetime member of the NRA until I renounced my membership. I used to own an AR 15. Okay, well, he used to own an AR 15, and then he renounced his membership, but I'm sure he still gave that $1,500, he says, you're not getting that back. So how's renouncing your NRA membership? Do you have that like on a billboard somewhere, or did you need to write the article just to say that? So I'm like, okay, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So he goes on to say, the Second Amendment mythology and revisionist history continues to result in needless firearm related deaths. Okay, so I just have to figure out when I read that. I'm trying to get a grasp on Second Amendment myths, mythology, and revisionist history, and I'm trying to think the Republican view on the Second Amendment, the Democrat view on the Second Amendment. Yeah, the Second Amendment. I don't see what mythology he's talking about, so I'm thinking, oh, the article is going to really expose this. So let's continue. Joel doesn't usually continue after this because once you've proven to me that you're really probably not who you say you are, I probably stop. But I'm interested because I understand that we've had a lot of deaths and destruction. So I understand and appreciate why gun owners, the large majority of whom are law abiding, are reluctant to risk the slings and arrows of Republican Party, the conservative media, right-wing pundits, and conspiracy theorists and pundits, and perhaps even their friends and family. Okay. So you're a Republican, you're out there and you're afraid of people's opinions. You're afraid to stand up to fellow Republicans because you have a position that has changed. Well, then you're not very good at this stuff because There should be nobody that can shame you from your opinion. But of course, you just went to salon and wrote your wrote your article. So it'll get deaf ears from Republicans, anyways. Other than me, who just happens to have the article in front of me. He says, I ask gun owners this respectfully: which is more uncomfortable, the pain of potential ostracization or the pain of nonstop loop of stoic? Man, he loves the big words. Like, okay, let me see. Did I write something on that one? Yeah. And targeted terrorism uses a big word. So aid. He says these days a 30 bone-shattering round per magazine. I'm like, can't one bullet shatter a bone? So you have to make sure hype it up. It's 30 bone-shattering rounds. So you want 10-round magazines. I get you. Okay. So we're gonna go on and we're gonna say, okay. If you're a parent with school-age children in fear of Columbine, Parkland, Uvalde type event is important is impossible to fully suppress. Last week in Jacksonville, Florida's most populous city, we saw a ghastly mass shooting perpetrated by a delusional neo-Nazi yearning for the resurrection of the mythical Aryan super race, in addition to taking taking his own life. He made his contribution to the ever-growing tabulation of gun death statistics, gun death, murdering 3 individuals. So okay, I I then think to myself, I go, okay, you got my attention. I'm back on track now. So that's something that I don't know if we've really addressed, other than the fact that as Republicans, we've said um, we should really address the mental health issue. We've but we've never really explained, what is it that we could do. I mean, we've tried to put guns in the classroom with teachers. Teachers freaked out. They said, didn't understand it. It wasn't mandatory. It was voluntary. Look, if I thought my teacher had a Smith and Wesson in his desk, I tell you one thing, I am probably not going to be messing around with my teacher. I don't care what you say. That's that's just facts. so, uh, so I kept going on. Joel's actually got his attention in this article. Well, I don't know if I don't know why I'm so frustrated, because I still go back to the fact that I just don't believe this is a hardcore Republican. He's soft on guns. Okay, well, you've always been soft on the Second Amendment. That's fine. I get you. So he goes on and calls guns machines with the sole purpose of killing. Oh, now you've just really piqued my curiosity, because a gun is not a machine solely for the purpose of killing. The whole purpose of a gun is to not shoot it, or to shoot it at a range. To a good gun owner knows that a gun is a machine that uh, ejects a uh, I had it right there, a projectile. So if you want to know what a gun is, it's a machine that it ejects projectile. So is it really a machine with the sole purpose of killing? No. That's the last thing. Do you know a handgun, typically, when you shoot a handgun, you're not going to be accurate up to 100 meters. Probably not even 50 meters. The accuracy for the accuracy for my 45 millimeter in the U.S. Army, my my Beretta 9 millimeter was 30 meters, and my 45 was only 25 meters. So you know that we have such a rocket scientist. I mean, he's carrying his gun. He has his concealed gun. You know, he's got all these things going on, and he wants to say that the sole reason for the gun is to kill people. Okay, Rich. Now my question to Rich is, why'd you get a gun? Who were you planning on killing? I want to know right now, who are you planning on killing? Because that person, if they're dead, you need to go to jail. I'm sorry, that's that a little too sarcastic? Man, I'll tell you, it really got me. This article. Now, I'm sure if you're a Democrat, you're going, yes, man, a Republican with common sense, a Republican who's got it together. He understands this stuff. Okay, well, he certainly doesn't understand this stuff. He goes after DeSantis, of course. Why not? Let's take on DeSantis. Okay. By the way, for the flack that Democrat majority cities receive from the right, Jacksonville has been a long time Republican area, so he goes there. Responsible gun owners, love this one. Responsible gun owners, are you okay with child sacrifice? I'm certain you are not. But if we don't hear from you loudly and frequently, our necessary voices are suffocated and held hostage by the most politically traumatized voices. Okay. That whole comment right there is the comment uses a rhetorical question followed by a statement to challenge responsible gun owners and their perceived silence on the issue of gun control. The goal is to make the reader reflect on their stance on responsible gun ownership and encourage them to speak out for advocacy. However, whenever you do something like that, it has the opposite effect. You have now, instead of being able to get into a conversation, you've shut down the reader, you've shut down the person you're trying to convince. Whenever you use rhetorical questions or you try to egg somebody on, you have the opposite effect. And one of the things that we continually fail to do is to have a conversation that doesn't pull out accusations. Now, I think the reason that David and I have a lot of conversations that, is because we don't go into those charged issues. We don't go in there. I don't call him a baby killer or he doesn't call me a warmonger or we just don't. We just don't have to do that. Like we have a conversation, we take a topic and we delve into it. And listen, this guy makes me want to have my gun more. He's like, I'm scared of this guy. He's going to tell us later that he's scared of me. So he goes, deadly Second Amendment myths. Okay, so now he's going to tell me about the myth. This is what I was waiting for. So what's the myth? So first of all, he says, I was not a Second Amendment absolutist. Okay, so all this time you were not a Second Amendment absolutist, but you're in the Republican Party and you're afraid to talk. So you had to write an article. Okay, let me see. God, I wish one of you guys out there was with me, you responsible gun owners, because that would be so much fun to have a conversation with you. GOP platform. Okay, so he says, I love this. To paraphrase Hemingway, my personal and political empathy occurred gradually and then suddenly all at once. One of the results of my road to Damascus moment was an increasing discomfort with an official GOP platform that accepts widespread preventable death and suffering. Uh, I uh, I stopped for a moment and I said, um, Rich never read the Rich has never actually read the platform because there is nothing in the platform. The GOP platform does not have anything that accepts widespread preventable death and suffering. It doesn't. It says that we defend the Second Amendment. Okay. Well, if we're going to defend the Second Amendment, we defend the First Amendment, we defend all our amendments, even the ones we don't like from the 1920, like the 1920s. Okay. Yeah, everybody's over here going, what's he doing now? So he says, I question whether they should be legally, okay, no, I got to go back because I highlighted this. So he's saying that the GOP accepts widespread preventable death and suffering because we support the Second Amendment. So then he goes on and he makes sure that he goes into um, not because party officials do not comprehend the gun uh, created, blood splattered, I can't see the word, my glasses, in community after community, but because they need the voters of everyone, the vote of everyone who believes that any constitutionally reasonable laws to reduce gun related deaths and injuries are a coordinated conspiracy between Democrats, rhinos, communists, socialists, globalists, aka global Jewish cabal, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and the Marxist. I ask you, what did the Marx brothers ever do to incur the ire of the Republican Party? Ha ha, stupid joke. But then he goes on and says, anyone who believes that that kind of outrageous hysteria has a, has a right to do so. Yay, we have the right to do so. I question whether they should be legally permitted to own a gun. Okay, why? What is wrong with somebody that you said because they have beliefs that you don't believe in? Because they do understand that Australia exists, England exists, English speaking countries. And they all went out and gathered up all the guns and took them away and said, nope, it's against the law to have a gun. Okay. So let's talk about that. Do they have a right to fear the government confiscating their guns? They do, because it's historically has happened already. The Second Amendment, and this is where I'm going to get to, because the whole point in this bringing this article up is because you can't act smart and be stupid. And when he goes on to tell me that the Second Amendment was because there was a fear among some of the founders that the Haitian Revolution, the first known successful slave uprising in America, would inspire similar events in the US. The Second Amendment at least partly assuaged this worry. Now, one thing that I try to pride myself on is knowing my history. I really love history and I love US history. And I immediately went, oh, that's really cool. He's taking the Haitian, he's taking the Haitian Revolution, which happens just before, just before the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Rights written, but the Bill of Rights was ratified. So you're saying that They were scared of a revolution that never even happened when the law was written. No, this is about being smart enough to understand the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights comes from the fact that the Revolutionary War and why we fought a war. So, Rich, if you're going to try to tell somebody something, have some credibility, because that shows that the Salon never ever does any editorials. You didn't pay attention to the fact that obviously that jumped off the page to somebody like myself. Oh, you want me to write to the editor? Why waste my time and write? Because this is a liberal rag with liberal writer, and you can't tell somebody who has a conspiracy theory that there's no conspiracy when you can't even get your history right. So the whole article gets wasted right there. So even if I was totally involved and said, you know what, I should probably think about gun control and all this stuff. Let's do this. Let's get smart. You live in the state of Florida, move, because the state of Florida is becoming red. And as a red state, we have the right to enforce law. We have the right to put controls on firearms, militias. We have the right as a state to do more than the federal government. If you want all your so called gun measures, then amend the Constitution if you so want to do. But right now, it's up to the states. State rights. States can enforce, cities can enforce. And the 14th Amendment is, you can't say, oh, well, the 14th Amendment, I go from one state to another state and the laws all change. No, it, that's not even, it's not even the case. Okay, stay on task, Joel. Whoo! Get my blood pressure down. Was a nation awash in guns what the framers of the Constitution intended? I am loath to speak for them, but if those who constructed our Constitution and Bill of Rights were alive today, I doubt they would ratify the Second Amendment. If they did, they would surely seek to modernize it if they chose not to strengthen or our current federal gun laws. So the founders were scared of a revolution that never happened, and now you're saying if they were alive today that they would they wouldn't ratify it. Well, are you saying that they would amend it? Which you're saying, let's look at this. What you're saying is if the founders were alive today, they would amend the Constitution. Dumbass. Oh, but then let's see. What is the whole message? Well, the message is pretty cool because he really gets down to the point, and this is where David looked at the article and said, you know what? These make sense. And yes, David, wherever you are before our show, yes, I agree. Some of these are actually phenomenal. A minimum age requirement of 21 to own any gun, long rifle, and so on, with some reasonable exceptions, such as working in law enforcement, military service, inheritance exemptions, which would only cover certain types of guns carefully stipulated by the law. So every manufactured gun is going to have to go to the U.S. Congress, and the U.S. Congress is going to have to determine whether this gun gets put onto the law. So yeah, okay, well, yeah, I'm sure they're going to want to do that. They're just going to want to put every gun on there that they possibly can. Oh, and inheritance exemption. I like that. So if I'm 12 years old and my dad dies and we have a gun, I can have that gun. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's nice of you to give me the gun. So, appreciate it. Oh, and if I'm, I was 17 when I went in the Army. So, and the fact is, are you saying that the exemption for military service and law enforcement would be that we can actually have the guns, we can buy guns, purchase guns for ourselves? Or are you just saying, oh, they carry guns, so we better probably put this little statement in there because, we don't want them to say they want to take our guns away from our military, which you do. I mean, you'd love to take our guns away from the military and our police department. After reading your article, I'm pretty sure I got that. A national firearm registry to assist law enforcement in criminal investigations. Well, we do have a national database that, if used properly, you know, should be registering firearms, especially those that were used in a crime. So that already exists. It's just the problem is whether the humans behind the uploading the data either have the time or just do it. Some of these places just don't do it. Mandatory record keeping and reporting to federal database by all states. Okay, so the National Firearm Registry, then a mandatory record keeping and reporting to the federal database by all states. So now all states have to pray, pray to the God of Washington D.C. and make sure that we turn in our our information to the federal government. Okay, well, I got you. Just like the state wants to take the rights away from, municipalities. Maybe we should have the municipalities tell us how much money they have, how much money they spent, how much they did, where they spend it. That's time consuming. It's already done. All firearm sales, including background. Oh, I love this one. All firearm sales, including background checks, performed by federally licensed dealers. Okay. So it's already in place, though. Dealers already have to do a background check. Annual Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives background checks conducted by dealers. Wait. Annual Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearm, and Explosives background checks conducted by dealers. That doesn't make sense. So everybody I sold a gun to, is that what he's saying? Or is he trying to say that or is it should be annual Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives background check conducted on dealers? I just don't get if it's maybe it's a typo or something, but to me that just doesn't make sense. So comment, maybe you can explain it to me. Reclassification of any firearm, handgun, or rifle that holds more than 10 rounds in a magazine. They will be subject to an excise tax at time of manufacture, with the funds collected from excise taxes used for gun violence studies and research, and perhaps a federally administered program of injury and liability insurance. Whew. So the last time we had a gun registry in the federal government, it was because they wanted to tax people. They wanted an excise tax. Democrats are really good at this, right? They swear that they're out there for the little guy. They're out there. They want to take care of the homeless. They want to take care of everybody. However, they don't want the homeless man who became homeless because he's an alcoholic to be able to afford alcohol. So they put a tax on that. There's the smoker that smokes the cigarettes that our country was founded on, that now is totally irresponsible, and it's going to kill us. So we got to stop that. We have sin taxes. This is what I'm getting at, guys. There's sin taxes, and those sin taxes are put on heavily by Democrats. So Democrats really don't want, they want to make it so expensive that they can't do it, but yet they don't realize that they push these people into poverty. Once they're in poverty, they're addicted. They keep on going. So, man, You want more money? Tax it. So now, if you want to own one of these guns that can happen to have hold a magazine over 10 rounds, wait a minute. Any gun can carry a magazine over 10 rounds. You just have to make sure it seats in there properly. Never mind. This is a very smart gun owner. Reduce magazine ammunition size on AR-15s and similar weapons from 30 rounds to 10 or fewer. Larger magazines should be regulated similar to the way fully automatic weapons are now. Why buyers subject with buyers subject to lengthy, demanding, and entirely constitutional background checks. Okay. You want to now reduce the size of magazines. Okay. So the guy that wants to go out to the range and he's a responsible gun owner and he doesn't want to be spending a lot of extra time at the range or, has a magazine that has sufficient amount of rounds, doesn't have to change it very often. Oh, never mind. Sorry that you haven't ever been out to the range. Probably didn't realize that, it's actually fun to get out there and, you know, it's exhilarating to go out and target practice. But guess what? We're responsible gun owners. We can't do that. We can't have, you know, extra rounds in there because we have some insane people out there that want to go beyond the capability. Okay, so you don't want to regulate guns, you don't want to regulate people. Well, okay, I get you. I got you. Yeah. Eliminate all ghost gun loopholes. Now, I love this term, like gun, like ghost gun loopholes. You know what they're saying? They're saying they want to make sure they eliminate all private sales of guns from one law-abiding citizen to another law-abiding citizen. That's the only loophole. That's the only loophole that exists in background checks and everything else. Guys, it's a private sale between two people. It's not. You're gonna make them spend extra money because you want them to spend extra money because if they want to sell their gun, if they want to exchange a gun with another person, that they have to now do a background check on a person that has a background check that has a. Okay, insane. Require mandatory permits for concealed carry in federal law. Prohibit open carry. Okay, require mandatory permits for concealed carry in federal law. Okay, first of all, federal law can't do that. Yeah, federal law can't do that because the federal law can't even make you have, can't even give you a driver's license. Okay, because it's state rights, dude. Okay, prohibit open carry. So you don't want to know that the guy has a gun. See, this one always kind of gets me. Like, I really don't think open carry is a great idea. But when the sheriff walks in and has his holstered weapon on, I know that he's armed. If I were to walk in and have my holstered gun, am I going to scare you? Am I going to freak you out? Maybe I'm a detective. Maybe no. I agree. I'm making fun of these in a way, but I agree. A lot of these things can be done, and they can be done at the state level. If you're a Democrat and you really truly want this to happen, if you're a Republican and you truly want guns to be regulated, then you need to do exactly what any citizen in the state of Florida, you should vote. You should vote, and you should vote for the people that are going to respect your decision. If you want somebody who wants these laws, you send them to Tallahassee. They have a few months to get together and get it passed. I mean, the governor before he became the senator, Rick Scott, put in several several gun control laws. And yes, they were all constitutional because the Florida Constitution. Thank you very much. This is the Morning Constitution. Like, share, and just comment. Tell me anything you want to.